back to my channel. My name is Anna and I'm a psychologist specialized in emotional and binge eating. I want to talk about fullness today. Fullness is the word that made me so uncomfortable for so many years because I experienced fullness in two scenarios. If I was extremely dieting and being starved, then whatever I would eat afterwards felt like a lot of food when I tried to eat normally, and I was like, I'm gaining weight, this is too much food, but that's because I never ate that much before and I was always on a diet. So I didn't have a very good perception what it means to be full. Or I was binging and therefore I was overly full. I was about to burst. I never had a good middle ground. And for that reason, fullness for me was a bad, negative word. It took some time and some practice to get to that stage where fullness now means I gave my body energy, I gave my body food, I gave my body nutrients, I can move on with my life without thinking about food. And I think that last reason, not thinking about food, was why I embraced practicing certain behaviors that I will tell you. Because when you are dieting all the time, you're thinking about food all the time. When you are in a binge mode, you're only thinking about food again. Like, let's turn this into a cheat day, cheat weekend, whatever, and you're just having massive ideas of what's next to eat, because then you have to go back to the diet. So there were a couple of things that I did that were absolutely necessary for me in order to embrace being full, but not as a bad thing, okay? And when I say full, I mean comfortably full, not overly full. One, really practice the hunger scale. Like eating when I'm ravenous, postponing my meals, banking my calories in the evening, made me binge. And forget about satiety cues at that point. I would just binge because I was just so hungry. So when the feeling and the sensation in my stomach comes up slowly, that hunger is coming up, that's when I started eating. And that's when I never went overboard because I was not too hungry. So I felt comfortably full. Paying attention, how many hours have passed. If I am snacking too much and not really eating, that could also throw me into just snacking so much that I will feel full at the end. When we come to talk about satiety cues, I never ate at the table. So in order for you to heal, you have to sit at the table. I was eating, in front of the TV, laptop, my phone, whatever. And quite frankly, you cannot assess properly when the satiety is coming up if you're distracted with the screen. So I would always go overboard and always feel extremely full. And before I knew it, I ate so much food that I was not feeling good. So hunger cues on the one side, satiety cues on the other side. Then comes the third part, which is eating to fill in a void, which will never be filled because that void is an emotional void. And there comes a time when you have to be honest, and I had to be honest with myself and say, are you bored? Are you tired? Are you trying to eat to get something to do in the kitchen, bake, for example, or get the energy from food? Or are you anxious? Are you sad? Are you unfulfilled? Are you just using food to fill in something that doesn't come from hunger? And by asking myself over and over and over those questions and being honest with myself, I stopped using food to fill an emotional void. Therefore, I never had to go overboard to use food in a way which is like a distraction or to use it as a prop, let's say, to fix my emotional issues. If you feel uncomfortable with being full, that's most likely either because you're binging or you're dieting, and fullness has a negative meaning. But fullness can be a positive experience if you're eating when you're hungry, if you stop when you're full, and if you understand that you're eating mostly for physical hunger. Of course, from time to time, we will all overeat and, eat for the pleasure of eating and the joy of eating. That's all fine. But for most part, you're supposed to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. And then if you solve that part of the equation, you will never feel uncomfortable with eating because you will know I will stop when I'm okay with what I've eaten and I can keep the rest aside. You don't have to binge because those foods will not be available and you need to start dieting. You will not fear being out of control around food because you can eat them later on. You can just store them and eat them. I think if you want to do that exercise, the mindset behind it has to be I can eat whatever I want whenever I want. Because if you don't have that, you will always be tempted to eat more, to get rid of the food from the house, to get rid of the trigger foods, to eat everything inside so that you can start eating clean from tomorrow. That mindset will always make you feel uncomfortably full.